What is up? Celtics win, force a game 7. Welcome to the Celtics Late Night Show. We are first to the floor. Derrick White saves the day. We're going back to Boston. I'm wearing the Red Sox shirt. I've got the Miami Heat, Florida bucket hat. And you will notice we have a slight programming change. Everybody in the chat, we have our New Zealand correspondent, Joe, and you've seen Bill Simmons and Dr. Bill. Now we have Jake's dad on the pod. Dad, how are we feeling after that?
Well, probably ready for bed now. Man, that was, even though it's not very late, I was exhausted after that game. So, went around the block, flew out the cobwebs, came back, had some lunch, and ready to chat some Celts.
Joe, how are we? Our Kiwi correspondent, feeling good?
Oh, mate, that was gut wrenching. I had to fold the washing just to calm myself down in that last 5 minutes. Ugh.
Yeah,
but classic of the genre. Classic of the genre.
I was gonna say, right, like only this team can go down 0-3, come back in dominating fashion, games 4. Game 5, honestly win wire to wire. And we all knew it. 98-88, 4 minutes to go. And then it's poop your pants time. Derrick White saves the day. Like, obviously these crunch time issues aren't going away anytime soon. But Joe, I guess, I don't know, maybe we start with the last play. 3 seconds left on the clock. D. White's trying to get the ball in. He can't find anyone. He finds Marcus. And the rest is potentially history, right?
I thought Marcus's shot was good. Out of the hand, I thought it looked really good. And it went halfway down, eh?
And then, D. White, Derrick White has been, the mistress on this podcast, a fan favorite of all Celtics fans all year, and one of the only Celtics actually hit a 3 today, but he saves the day.
Well, first I have to say, as your dad, I'm not very happy you have a mistress, but if you're gonna have one, Derrick White's the one, man. God almighty, he's been unbelievable. And remember, we were messaging, and somewhere, I think it was towards the end of the first half, I said, man, best 3-point game ever, because he wasn't scoring, but he was doing everything else. He's just been phenomenal this series.
And I think that's been what we've been missing a little bit from Derrick. It was not only was he not maybe being aggressive or finding those points, but he wasn't making the Derrick White plays, whether it was getting block shots, drawing a charge, whatever it may be. But for whatever reason, from game 4 to now, to where he makes the play. And when you have a guy, it's almost like a microcosm of the Celtics' chaotic energy. Marcus is the one who shoots the 3, and Derrick is the one that puts it back in. Like, it always seems to find Marcus at the end of these games, for better or worse. And Derrick White seems to be finding his way into this stuff. And I know, Joe, you've been a Marcus Smart truther since the beginning, and we've been. Right? So, Derrick White, talk about D. White and just his ability to come through and clutch here.
It's just pressure to error, man. I'm going to try and coin this phrase as hard as I can. And Derrick White's pressure to error ratio is just off the charts. And that was why was he in position? Because he was putting pressure on. In fairness, Tatum was also right there as well. But, he also, it wasn't like a cinch. Like, if you're an NBA player, expect to make that layup, but he still had to time it. There's a lot that was going on, eh? And White, he's just always trying to add something positive to the team, eh? And I'm just happy for him. You know, you see him crying afterwards.
Yeah.
Like that's actually like we actually just saw the biggest moment in his life, probably right there. You know, and it's pretty hard not to feel happy for somebody experiencing that in real time.
I mean, yeah, Derrick White, right? I feel like he's gone through a lot from this team, whether it was, getting traded at the deadline and really kind of struggling to really find himself and get comfortable within the offense. And then we saw this season, he was a third best Celtic. And then we kind of lost him there somewhere between game 4 of the Atlanta series and game 4 of the Heat series. But he's back. And I mean, you can't really ask for much more from D White here. So let's just do a bit of a run through here, and like we'll try and make sense of what happened in the fourth quarter. Like we're up 98-88. And I didn't want to write it down in my notes, but I was like,
we all know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to I'm trying to get the big picture feeling, the big picture vibe from the game. And it was going to be like a normal kind of game recap where we can kind of go through step by step, first quarter. But now, because of what happened in the last 4 minutes, we have to kind of go in reverse. It's 98-88. And I write down, not a perfect game by any means. There was the defense wasn't good. We missed it. We left a lot of 3-point shooters, but they found a way to get it done. And it was ugly, but they still were wire to wire. It was pretty comfortable. And then Jimmy Butler goes into absolute grifter mode. And we can get into Jimmy Butler and how he has quietly been pretty bad since games 1 and 2, especially tonight. But once he got to the line those 2 times, it felt like he had that pep in his step. He gets to the line twice. And then we get the Jimmy Butler on Al Horford. They're down 1. Down 1, right? And then he gets fouled and it's the 3 free throws. He has Horford in the corner. He gets fouled. I don't think if anyone in the chat knows what the rule was, I'm pretty sure they were going to review whether it was a 2 or a 3 regardless.
I would have thought they had to, surely.
Right? I think they have to, right?
Me too. Yeah. Because the ref definitely called it a 2, right? But
yeah. And they were playing really good defense, it felt like, on that last possession. But coming into this game, I was like, can they survive a game where they shoot badly? And can they win a game in the clutch? And they were going to look, I think they technically won the game in the clutch. But
substance
over
form
not
here,
technically,
man.
Because they didn't, but man, it felt like it.
They got outscored how much in the clutch?
Yeah, pretty
got
much
outscored by 9 in the clutch.
Yeah,
or 8.
It was hard to be. And that's what it's been the story all year long. And I don't think it's an issue that's going away.
Nah.
Clearly, I don't think not. They may win a title.
Yep.
But this problem is not going away in this season. But they survive. It feels like, how many times have we actually scored when we're down 1 or down 2 with 3 seconds left? Feels like never. And I know, Dad, how many times?
My brain actually went back to game 1 against the Nets last year, right?
Okay.
It's we did it. Now, there wasn't nearly as much riding on it, but it's that's what I went to. And it's they can do it. They can do it. I wasn't confident, but I had hope.
Well, I was thinking that they were going to do the play where they get Tatum in the backcourt.
The Philly one.
The Philly one.
And the Cleveland, he did it against
Cleveland,
as well,
Philly as well. They did it a bunch of times. I wonder if there wasn't quite enough time with the 3 seconds. But I did not think that they had a shot at getting a clean look and getting a proper shot. I thought they needed to go to the free throw line. I thought it was get Jalen or Jason the ball or whoever it is, honestly, clean and get downhill and try and draw a foul. I thought, honestly, that was their only chance.
We would shoot 1 of 2, of course.
Oh, man. And honestly, if I was to ask you which player you trust the most at the line with the game on the line, who's your pick?
Smart.
Right? I
haven't seen any. Yeah.
And Tatum rebounds. Yeah, go, Jad. Yeah.
Well, no, and earlier, JB had missed one, and you messaged me, and I'm like, don't say that. And of course, he missed one just before Marcus. So those were two, right?
He made the first though, so I thought,
Yeah,
he'll have the heebie-jeebies out of him, and he'll knock down the second. But no, I should know better than to trust Jalen at the line.
Yeah. Well, look, Jalen goes 8 for 10 from the line. You can't.
It's good enough.
You can't.
Yeah, but context, it was
I know,
kind of
context,
an important miss.
Context matters, of course. I was like, so Tatum goes 15 for 15 from the line, right? He was the one who rebounded the ball on the wide open Duncan Robinson 3. And Tatum outlets it to Marcus. And I was like, that's fine. But in my head at the same time, I'm like, Tatum's been 15 for 15 from the line. I understand wanting to get the ball up the court, not risk like an 8-second violation, but you have a timeout in the pocket. I'm like, maybe you're the guy. Maybe just go to the line, let Tatum do it. I was shocked that Marcus missed it because you go, how do we get to 98, right? So it was teetering the entire second half. Like, firstly, we should have been up by 1 million. Thanks to
which is also very Celtics, mind you.
Of course, right? Well, I saw on the Twitter time, like, the Heat also lead the league in how is the score this close? Like, how are the Heat not down more? How are the Heat in this game? It's just what they do. And like, if I tell you that Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo can't hit a shot for the first half, and Jason Tatum has 25 points in the first half, you think we got a bigger lead. Alas, we don't. And it's teetering the whole second half. But then the Buffalo hits a big 3 early in the fourth quarter. And it's like, okay, at least someone else is hitting threes. And it's Derrick and Marcus, of all people. And we have that weird Jalen 4-point play where he gets fouled 2 shots.
Yeah.
Bam gets called for both a technical for hanging on the rim, but also a goaltend. So it was a goaltend, a technical, and an and one.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a play like that? I thought it was pretty rough. I thought that was a bit rough.
Yeah.
Very.
I thought, rough. And then there was also the play where Tatum got fouled. He got an offensive rebound and got pushed out of bounds. I was like, this doesn't feel that good. Like that. No. This is our source of offense as a friendly whistle. It wasn't.
No,
great.
look, the basketball gods have kept us alive here. It's hard to not think there's like something supernatural here. And Dad, maybe we'll pivot slightly here. I'm wearing Boston Red Sox t-shirt right now. You have to excuse my ignorance, but this is a Nomar Garcia Parra t-shirt. I don't believe he was on the team.
He wasn't. He got traded. He got traded that year for
that season because he had been their superstar.
Right?
Yeah.
And they got traded mid-season for a shortstop who's
Orlando Cabrera.
A better defensive shortstop than one other guy, and then that was it. And then the real, the whole Dave Roberts steal and all that. And there's a bit of Red Sox juju going on. I was watching. I always follow the Sox at the same time online. They won by 1 run today, so I took that as a good sign. Yeah.
Well, so run us through where we're at in the 0-4 comeback right now, because I think before today you said today if we're following the same arc, then this should be a nail biter.
Minky,
Doug McDavid. Yeah. No, that was actually the same. That was today's game, but I actually went somewhere else with the Sox because everyone's talking about the 0-4 Sox, but in 07, which was our second championship, the Rockies, Colorado, obviously Denver, they swept the whole field before the end of the season in the playoffs. So they were sitting at home for 9 days waiting for their next opponent. So I'm thinking, they're going to be waiting 9 days for their opponent this year. It's going to be Boston. So that was my other positive Red Sox sign. So I'm looking at everywhere, my Red Sox juju.
The signs are definitely there. Like when Derek Jeter and A-Rod were in the crowd for Game 4, as the Celtics are blowing them off the court, and we're going back to Boston. I mean, Joe, where were you after Game 4? And apologies, chat. Apologies, Dad and Joe. We're just going to jump around. See, look at this chat here. Classic cardiac Celtics. Like, you can't expect people that talk about the Celtics to have a brain that works at this point in the season, and especially in the aftermath today, right? We saw the stolen base moment tonight. I don't know. It's all up there. Where were you, Jay, in game
So,
four.
like, as in, like physically, like you mean like emotionally? And,
I mean, if you want to let us know where you watched it, that's fine too. But emotionally was more what I was going with.
was it? I don't think.
Yeah.
I think this is the difference between maybe this team and the Boston thing. Is it's like, and the original Red Sox comeback is like, there is literally nobody writing off the Celtics at all, and I was definitely. I feel like I thought it was an original observation. It clearly wasn't. I was like, man, if anyone's going to come back, it should be a team where the talent gap is this big. And that's how I felt then. But it's just no margin for error. And if we'd done taking care of business in game 2, we would have just. I know all games are all results aren't like independent of each other, but we would be the ones.
No, you're right.
Sending them home now.
That's
how little margin for error you have.
Yeah, I was pretty dark, because it felt like I felt like they quit in the second half.
Are you talking game 3 or 4?
No, game 3. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, game 3. Oh, sorry, Jake. I might have had to give you the game 3. No, I'm going to hold. No, the answer's the same.
No,
the answer's
you're
basically
right.
the same.
Game 3 was a dark place, and we can even ask the question now, Dad. But like, where were you amidst the let going of the rope?
I was just, because it was the whole, hot take, flip flop. I hate it, but I was just so disappointed that after all the hard work and everything they've been through, that the narrative that they would have to live with after that, because it felt like Joe had lost the locker room. Because that's the thing, you're never inside the locker room, you never know what they're really talking about. And I'm like, wow, can they come back from this? And after the game, I still thought, I think they can win the next game. I wasn't looking too far ahead, but at that moment, man, that was bad. That was dark. It was just.
I'll tell you, this is the actual thought that formulated in my head after game 3. I was like, I'm just going to have to listen to Bill Simmons and take my medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to.
That's what it feels like when you listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dad, you've been feeding me Havlicek propaganda for months, especially now. I've probably started listening more over the past few months. I'm sure you've mentioned his name previous, but in comparison to JT and how they can be kind of similar, and how they are potentially vying for that third greatest Celtic of all time spot when it's all said and done. But we got a comment here from Ty. This is up there with Havlicek steals the ball. All of this is like, it will see, right? If it matters, like if it is on the same level.
Yeah. Well, the thing that they do have some similarities is Havlicek was just an all-rounder, right? He was originally a sixth man in the 60s when the Celtics were unbelievable, but then it was his team in the 70s. But he could score, he could pass, he could defend. He played small guard, small forward. He was unbelievable. And he was the Iron Man. I think it was the 69 7-game series. He played like all but 4 minutes of the entire series. It was incredible. And Tatum hasn't played quite that much, but he's an Iron Man as well. Of all his skills, he is just out there. He almost never gets tired. He's just amazing. And in the modern day, there aren't many guys like that.
Yeah, today, right? So he plays 44 minutes today. Jimmy goes to 46 minutes and 40 seconds. Like, the Heat are running on fumes as well, right? The Celtics are getting to that point as well. As far as the modern era goes, you're not going to find someone that's like a superstar, especially. You're not going to find many guys today that are playing as many games and as many minutes as Tatum. It's just a completely different world. But if you go back into Basketball Reference, once you were telling me this kind of stuff, and you look at Havlicek's minutes, he's just so far and away clear of anyone playing the game today. It's so ridiculous. But yeah, Tatum, we'll get to individual performances. So we have the Jalen 4-point play, and Horford was solid, but he had that play in the fourth quarter where he blocks Bam at the rim. Like, after
an offensive rebound that we somehow gave up, another one.
Yes,
but yeah,
another
anyway.
one. Yep.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Offensive rebounding, what did it end up today? Because I felt like we lost it today. 12-17. Yep, 17-12. Yeah. We had definitely had some key offensive rebounds ourselves, but this...
Yeah, like the last one.
Oh, we're so selective.
I was like, yeah, I remember.
Yeah. That one.
I don't know how that was not the first thing that popped in my mind, but yeah, Derrick White, pretty key offensive rebound there.
Yeah.
At some point. Look, Al was not the best on the boards, and that's always going to be like not his strength, but he has that block on Bam, and then we get out in transition. Jalen goes to the line, gets fouled, goes to the line, makes them both 8-0 run, and then come back the other end, and Duncan Robinson hits that like contested. That's what's crazy is that Duncan Robinson hit that like 30-foot contested
30-footer
shot to end the 8-0 Celtics run. And then that brought it back down to 5-ish. But then D White again hits another 3. So of Derrick White's 3 threes, 3 from 7 for the game, 2 of them came in the fourth quarter. Like Derrick White's fingerprints were all over this game. Like even like you said in the first half, amazing 3-point half. But he followed it up with like clutch. I mean, we're talking about clutch buckets. No one can make a shot. He hits the big 3 early in the quarter, hits this 3 to answer the Duncan Robinson 3, and obviously the game winner. But then Smart has the and one to put us up 98-88. And like Marcus, I mean, we can just talk about Marcus right now. 7 for 15, 4 for 11 from 3, 4 rebounds, only 1 assist, had 4 turnovers. Interestingly, a -10, which is the lowest of all Celtics. This is where single game plus minus can be a bit weird, but like I think outside of Tatum, and Marcus really kept us alive here, and again steps up in a massive playoff moment.
Marcus giveth and Marcus taketh away, but Marcus giveth more than Marcus taketh. So, yeah. I mean, he had some errors. I think Robinson got that 3 because Smart way overhelped on a Lowry drive, and you should never help one pass away, is what I'm told. But he did off of Robinson. And that turnover where he traveled, where he jumped in the air.
Oh my God.
Like he really had some shockers, but then his 3-point shooting in the third quarter really it felt like he had a lot of those shots that felt like, oh, this might be the shot that kicks off the game-winning run. Never quite happened, but yeah, man. He was 7-15.
Yeah. To Dave D in the chat, where's the other dude? Ben is has some family matters to attend to today, so we're joined by our New Zealand correspondent and Jake's dad today. But yeah, Dad, I mean Marcus, like,
yeah, I thought it's sort of about midway through the second quarter, he called a timeout on the floor because we were blowing our coverage on the threes.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we came back out and we were so much better. But then in the second half, Marcus blew 2 rotations at least, and it led to open threes. So he, as you said, Joe, he giveth and he taketh away. But that's the Marcus experience. I'll take Marcus on my team any day.
He's a magician.
It's all part of the package.
And this,
me too.
These are the swings, right? And hand up. After game 3, was it game 3? Me and Spoonie hopped on here, and the question was like, if you want to shake up the core, Marcus is probably the way that you do it because you're not going to be more likely than not. I don't see Brad trading Jalen. Marcus is kind of the guy. Like if you want to change the fabric, like if you're concerned about the fabric of this team, then Marcus is probably the direction that you go. Like the guy that's billed as the heart and soul. You know, we love and trust Marcus even in, his dark moments. He's had that many moments in this playoffs. How many playoff games? And he was the only guy that could make a 3 in the first half. And he was confident too. He's like pump faking. You've got Caleb Martin flying by, splash, like just absolutely no problem for Marcus.
Hey, his greatest attitude is his confidence. It's the thing that makes him people close out on him, even though everyone thinks he sucks at shooting. They still close out. You know why they close out? Because he doesn't hesitate to take the shots. And you just have to live with that. You just have to live with that. You have to live with the misses and the mistakes born of, I guess, overly intuiting what's happening out there. But he makes very different types of mistakes to say Jalen Brown. They're very different in character. Anyway, we don't need to get into that.
No, look, I mean, we can do it. We have plenty of time for a psychoanalysis of Jalen Brown and Marcus Smart, but it is. I don't know about you guys. It feels like we obviously won, and it feels like we got away with something here. Like,
yeah, we should.
I have, right? Like so last season, the Heat Celtics Game 7 in Miami, the Celtics did the same thing, right?
Mhm.
And Jimmy misses the 3 to go up 1 with, I forget the amount of time. I think it was like 7 seconds left or something.
At least, maybe even 10, yeah.
Yeah.
And who was guarding Jimmy then?
Well, this is the thing, right? Al Horford. And I wonder, like, was there something in Jimmy's mind where he was like, it felt like Jimmy went for the 3. He did go for the 3 again. He went for the 3 again. And on Horford. And for whatever reason, he didn't attack Horford again. And look, Horford was great on Jimmy at the rim. Everybody was great on Jimmy at the rim. But, this time, Jimmy makes the 3, hits the 3 free throws. And the Celtics, honestly, one of my biggest pet peeves about people talking about how the Heat were 1 Jimmy made 3 away from going to the finals was the Celtics having 10 seconds left. Yes, you would have had very, very, very low confidence on the Celtics actually scoring with those 10 seconds left. And today is a perfect example of why you have very low confidence and why they would score, because they ended up with a Marcus Smart turnaround in traffic that needed a Derrick White buzzer beater follow-up to get it done. But it's very interesting, these parallels between last season and this season. But this year, the celebration feels a little similar. The difference is we're not going to the finals quite yet. We have one more to do, Joe.
It's hard to ignore like the narrative parallels, right? Like, I don't know if you saw that Bill Simmons tweet where, well, it was, I don't even know his last name. Ken Tremendous is his Twitter handle. And he comes on and he described exactly what was going to happen in the last 5 minutes. The Celtics go up 10, Butler gets fouled twice, which, by the way, is exactly what happened. And then someone else makes a 3 and you're up 4, and and all of a sudden the knot in the stomach has tightened. And it just happens like that all the time, eh? And it's hard to ignore. And I think that's why maybe people say things like it, where they were a Jimmy Butler 3 away from going to the finals, because they just expect that the story will eventually surely result in the Heat and the Celtics finally tripping all over their own feet enough to face plant before reaching the finals. But look, let's also zoom out here. We are way more talented than these guys. So yes, we've got no margin for error from coming down 3-0, but the Heat have no margin for error on a talent basis game to game. They have to have Gabe Vincent and on a dodgy ankle and whoever else is, and Caleb Martin doing that. They can't get away with it if they don't.
Well, I mean, Joe, you say we have the talent advantage, but like famously on first to the floor, right before the playoffs started, we had a Skip Bayless, Shannon type debate between you being concerned that the Heat were a problem and me completely being like, they've been terrible all year. They are the 26th worst offense in the league. Literally the only teams they're better than are the worst 4 teams in the league that are like clearly tanking. Like if you're 26th in anything in the league this year, that means you're last because the other 4 teams are not trying.
I mean, if you ain't first, you're last.
Exactly. And like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, the only talent they have, I mean, at this point, you kind of have to just accept that Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin are more talented than what we think, at least right now. I don't know. How did you know? How did you know this was going to be a problem? Did you think it was a Celtics specific problem? Was it just a Miami Heat? Like you and Bill Simmons were on this, the zombie Heat.
Maybe the only reason I knew is because I listened to Bill too much. I just first name basis him. For me, it's at least 60% the nature of the Celtics. They can beat themselves against anybody, right? And if they go to the finals, they'll blow at least one game that they shouldn't have blown. It's you just pencil in. We got to win 5 games every series, you know. We've got to beat ourselves once as well, you know.
The only team they've actually not had a game they've beaten themselves was in the net series. It's like the only one of both playoff runs where they've just won every game, and even then they kind of got away with one.
So here's my theory that I'm trying to build out, which I think makes sense. Well, I'm trying to explain why we see what happens in these particular series, and I think Butler has a way of giving his teammates confidence. He has a way of keeping them in games, right? And that creates chances for random things to happen, like Gabe Vincent hitting a bunch of threes, or Max Strus knocking down something huge. And I think that puts the Celtics in particular in a vulnerable situation, because the Celtics need to put games, like we need to blow teams out, and we can't quite blow the Heat out. And then the Heat are in a situation where they have a player and a coach that gives them more confidence than the Celtics counterparts, you know, than Tatum and say Missoula give our boys. So we get tighter, they get looser, and all that has to happen is for them to be within 10 with 5 to go, and we see what happens sometime. But we did enough to win, so oh well.
It is crazy, like that number, 10 points with like 5 to go. It almost like, yes, the Heat are great in that spot, and you saw the stat today. The Heat had, I forget exactly the number. It was like 3 wins down by 10 or more in like the last 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, and it's like, teams are some crazy percentage losing and winning, except for the Celtics winning those games and the Heat losing those games. So there's this cosmic alignment where the Celtics' worst stuff comes out and the Heat's best stuff comes out. And on that point, I think this is a good time. Ben's not here, so I have to remember to do things. But our sponsor, FanDuel. Now, there's a lot going on, obviously, going into Game 7. Be on FanDuel right now, FanDuel.com/Boston. Get a $1,000 no-sweat first bet. The exclusive wagering partner on CLNS. It was a 10-point game, and I called up FanDuel, and the Celtics were 26-1.
What did you do, Jake?
Doesn't FanDuel know better?
I can't believe it. So I look and I'm like, what is – so look, I put $15 on it, and I was like, this is an emotional hedge. And
you're not my son. My God.
I know. Dad would never do something like that. But because it's one, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
and it's a good bet. And 2, I need protection. And this is the best value protection you're going to get in the league. And going into Game 7, unsurprisingly, like the whole entire playoffs, FanDuel has the Celtics at -8, 8-point favorites going into Game 7. I don't know what you want to do with that one. If you're like me and a coward, you're probably going to bet on the Heat to provide some protection.
Well, the thing is, you think about it, the -8 makes sense because the Celtics are going to either they win by more than
blow
10,
them out.
we're okay. And if it's less than 10, well, we know what's going to happen. It's either going to be a loss or it's going to be what we just saw, right?
Yeah. There's the Game 3 outcome where the Heat beat the Celtics. Well, they blew them out. That feels like the anomaly, right? There's 3 outcomes possible. It's Celtics blow them out, Celtics survive, just survive. Like, we just rescued you from a desert island and you're on your last breath like tonight. And then the Heat just win the close game. Those feel like the 3 outcomes.
Exactly. So that's FanDuel's strategy. So they got 2 out of 3 going for them.
Yeah. PSA, don't get me. FanDuel knows what they're doing. These betting companies are very aware, and they're most likely going to take your money. But you got the no sweat first bet, so at least you get some bonus
great promo,
bets.
Jake. Great promo.
At least you get your bonus bets back. Well, let's rewind a little bit because I feel like we've done the aftermath, the fourth quarter. let's look at the whole game as a whole. Jason Tatum was the story of the first half, I think. He went to, I don't know, this is just eliminate. I mean, this has been Jason really for the whole series outside of game 3 has been so good. Like game 5, people said that was his best game because he had like the 21, 11 assists, 8 rebounds. But today, he only ends up with 31. 0 for 8 from 3. Yeah. Only 31, 12 boards, 3 of them offensive, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 3 turnovers, which I think, honestly, if you get Tatum with 3 turnovers with this kind of usage, you kind of live with it.
One of them was a carry call, which I actually thought was pretty dodgy.
Even
as a carry call, I was like, I don't really think that's a carry.
Well, it's like, if that's a carry, then like
in game 6 or elimination game,
if that's a carry, then how many carries are there every game, right? I don't know. So
like, it wasn't a Ja Morant carry. He wasn't doing
I think we on balance we did pretty well today, but that was not a carry.
Yeah, I think the refs. Side tangent, but third quarter, the Celtics are in the bonus with like 9 minutes to go, and that whole quarter was just like that was a survival test as well, because they were just getting to the line over and over and over again. Grant Williams was committing dumb fouls, but Tatum, I mean, at this point, he's put together like a really, really impressive playoff run, a really, really impressive series outside of game 3. And if some other guys turn up in games 1 or 2, then we win one of those games and we're probably not in this position we are right now. But today, the 3 ball's not going, but in the first half, he has 7 for 13, 0 for 4 from 3, but 11 for 11 from the line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, steal and 2 blocks. Dad, that's the Tatum experience. It was the all-around game, right?
And his moves to the hoops that half were just that one teardrop when he took off practically from half court, slid it through. I mean, that degree of difficulty. He made a drop shot as well, which he doesn't do that many. He was just everything except the 3 was working for him. He was magnificent, and his D as well. Right, it was just been great the whole playoffs.
Yeah, I thought the first, he's a tone setter for the team, right? And when he's aggressive and looking to get to the rim, I think we play our best. That shot you're talking about where he took off seemingly from half court, he just roasted Butler on that. Just roasted him. And I wrote in our chat, I was like, oh man, Miami looks absolutely gassed right now. And they called timeout. And I thought, man, I think I even wrote in the chat, I thought, oh man, there's blood in the water now. I thought we were going to push that out to 20. They came on back. And part of the reason is Tatum, he wants to shoot the 3. I think this is, he wants that sidestep 3. And it's just not always optimal. I think good things are always going to happen for the Celtics when he's getting 2 feet in the paint with the ball. And what happens from there is fine, whether it's a 3 or a fadeaway or a shot at the hoop. I don't mind. But I think the intent from Tatum is really important for setting the tone for the team. So hopefully we see. It looked great. First half, I thought, man, we look strong.
I'm going to be honest. Go, Dad.
To me, the other big picture thing that we haven't mentioned yet, besides obviously the end of the game, the Heat literally had twice as many points from 3, which is our game. And so outside of the 3, we had to play pretty much not a perfect game, but a fantastic game, and we did with the defense and everything that we did. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got to that last minute.
Yeah, there was actually heaps to like in the game. There's heaps to like.
Oh yeah. Look, that's what I'm saying. Like when I started to build the big picture, feeling the vibe, the story with 4 minutes to go, up 10, a lot to like. Yeah. And even to be in a game where the Heat shoot, and look, the Celtics defense was not great, I don't think today, right? I thought the effort was there, but the execution was not. The Heat ended up going 46.7% from 3 for the game. But you look in the first half, they were 60%, 9 for 15. And they weren't getting too many threes up, which is a good sign for the Celtics defense. But like Jalen lost Vincent twice on those threes, right?
Yeah, those 2 blown switches, that would be really obvious. Yeah.
But back to Tatum, Zachary Payon in the chat here. There was that stretch where he just went absolutely nuclear. And rarely does Tatum go that level nuclear. Honestly, the first half in this game looked very similar to the first half against Philly in that he didn't actually take that many threes. It was all downhills, a few mid-ranges. I don't understand where the mid-range is, like why it's a zero factor for a lot of the regular season, for some early playoff games, but it feels like when it matters, when chips are on the line, he gets to the mid post. We've been seeing a lot more of the mid post, and if you've been paying attention to this show in particular, I've been calling for Tatum in the post all year long, and especially in the clutch, because it's like Tatum can get to at least the mid range. It's like not a bad shot. He can shoot over literally anyone, including Jimmy Butler. And he had that stretch in the second quarter. Jimmy had those 2 fouls, and Tatum was just working him, absolutely working. Or was it the second quarter? Tatum was just mid-range over Jimmy. And then down the other end, it was like he stonewalls Gabe Vincent, fade away over Jimmy. It was just like Tatum was just dominating on both ends. And I think that's what makes Tatum special. Even when the threes aren't going in, it was everything else.
Yeah, you remember I think it was in between his second and third season. He, God help us, went to see Kobe for a week, and Kobe tutored him. And then the next season, he went too far into the mid-range game. Well, I hate to admit it, but right now I'm thanking Kobe because it paid off.
Yeah, there's definitely a middle ground there somewhere, Joe, right? Mm. Like there's no reason he needs to be only at the rim and only threes. Like he's able to get very clean looks and bully guys into that like 12 to 14 foot range.
Yeah, we're just trying to reduce variance, right? And especially when you're up 10, man, you just need you particularly then need low variance offense. I don't know why they went out to get him at the elbows against the zone. Yeah. Seemed like Horford was the guy that was flashing.
Yeah, good
and
call.
Also, they also struggled, I think, because he went zone when Rob Williams was out there in the first. I think he was still out there at the time, and that really we seemed to struggle against the zone with Rob in there. But I'm fine. Like I like the fadeaway as long as there's been pressure on the hoop first. It's sort of like that's the price. That's the buy-in. That you've got to meet the ante, right, before you can go to your fadeaway. And as long as he does that, I'm cool with it. But yeah, I think that just for whatever reason, I just think it gives you confidence when you know the defense has had to react to you and you've forced it to do something it doesn't want to do. I just feel like the shots go in more.
Yeah, I'm with you. Philip Hart in the chat here. Can we talk about Joe's challenge that turned 2 free throws into 3? We kind of touched on it. We're pretty sure they would have reviewed it anyway. I haven't been able to find anything online so far, and obviously we're doing the show, so I'm not able to see everything. It feels like they were going to review it anyway. Like if Tatum, when Caleb Martin had that shot, there was a ruled a 2. They went back and reviewed it and made it a 3. I think it would have been the same thing. So I still think it was a good challenge, and I love that Joe saved his challenge for as late as possible. We'll get to Joe at the end. I was gonna go on a Joe tangent, but we'll stick to the players for now. I mean, any closing thoughts on Tatum here? He has been ridiculous over the past 3 games now, and I don't know what it is, but when the money's on the table, he seems to just like hit whatever that ceiling is. He's like right there when it really matters. Tatum seems to be there.
Competitive dude, man. Competitive dude. Yep.
And I think it's because when all the chips are on the line, he plays good D, but the D and the rebounding, everything else goes to another level, and that helps just elevate the rest of his game a little bit.
I think so.
When you're that good at everything, man, he's unbelievable.
It's those little. I mean, we've talked about it before, but when he's like dribbling the ball hard, like when he's being physical, like everywhere, when he's rebounding hard and he'll bang, slap the ball right. Like when he catches a rebound, when he's in that mode, that's when he's definitely his most effective.
Yeah, and I mentioned it like a few episodes ago, but Anthony Edwards was on some video, and someone asked him like, who are the guys in the NBA that like you don't realize are big, you don't realize are strong, and he was like, Tatum on the screen looks like he's tall and like he looks more KD than he does Giannis, and then you get into the game and you're like, oh, this dude is 6'10" and built, and when the chips are on the table, it feels like, as he said, that like he just exerts that frame, that Giannis-ness that he truly has, the length, the strength, the athleticism, the IQ. He exerts that on the rest of the game. And for whatever reason you see, and look, I'd much rather see it in elimination games than in games 1 and 2. I'd much rather him be Jason Tatum than James Harden, where James Harden likes to perform in game 1 as opposed to, well, we got a quick question here. Jake's dad, Pierce or Tatum?
As long as they don't ask me about Hondo, I'm okay. I mean, we're a little bit early in his career, but I think he will surpass him, right? Because putting aside one title, he just has more of an all-round game. He really does.
Oh, you can jump in here as well.
I mean, contextually, who would I want generating offense in high leverage situations? It's still Pierce for me. And
I think that's fair.
I think Pierce was probably a slightly better playmaker, if memory serves. But I think every other area of the game, I think Tatum's superior. He's just bigger.
Yeah,
for one.
And I wonder if if we would have had to see Pierce in his age 24 season, which is what Tatum's in right now, which was 2001, and
so that was the stab season,
right? So maybe we give Paul a year to recover, and so we look at his age 25 season to see what his playmaking looks like. But yeah, I think
I actually think Tatum's already a better playmaker, to be honest. Really, he's man. Some of his passes. You think about that touch pass he had last game, and the one he whipped over his head to Horford a couple games ago. I mean, he's just going from strength to strength.
Maybe the first 3 quarters you give it to Tatum. First 3.5 quarters you give it to Tatum, and maybe it's not even playmaking, but Paul Pierce and Dad. Honestly, I have a memory. It was like Celtics Heat round one, 2010, right?
Yeah.
And one of my best mates from high school, Ed, he was over. It was us 3 watching the game, and it's 6 seconds left. Pierce has the ball on the right wing, and you just know that he's going to make that shot. Tatum,
I agree. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's probably the biggest difference. But to be fair, Pierce is literally half a decade older than Tatum, right? Yeah. So and that, I think that should excite you as a Celtics fan. Like, as good as Tatum is right now, like once they blend that athletic peak with the skill, the experience, the understanding of the moment. The problem is we're trying to win. We have the opportunity to win a title right now. And it's like, are we going to be able to overcome some of Tatum's like understandable shortcomings like in this moment?
Yeah. And going back to what we were talking about before, if he can blend that bring back just a little bit of that mid-range game, not so much for the regular season, but for the playoffs, man, he's just hard to top.
Now, eye test wise, if I could just throw this in, I think they're very different kind of athletes. And Pierce was really balanced. And one of the things that Tatum's gotten in trouble with, less so this season, the classic is the spin move where he's like, and also he gets a lot of offensive fouls, Tatum, because he chicken wings guys because he's too far over, his nose is too far over his toes. Pierce those sort of things, I think, add to your consistency and your ability to generate like a clean look. It doesn't mean you're necessarily a better overall player, but that would be the thing that's different about them. To me, the difference in athleticism, that Pierce is a more balanced player, just physically more balanced, whereas Tatum tends to want to extend, whereas Pierce would to me is more ground bound, and as a result, he probably drew more fouls, to be honest.
Look, I think the chat's we're all kind of on a similar page here. It's like this version of Tatum and the actualized version of Pierce, like you can have a really good discussion about, but I think that's what's exciting, right? Is it like this is not the actualized version of Tatum quite yet. Now, the other Jalen Brown. I feel like we got the full Jalen experience tonight, right? It was clutch buckets. Like you look at the box score, we got a pretty good game. Let me pull it up here. It was 26, 10 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. You got the 4 turnovers, 0 for 4 from 3, 8 for 10 from the line. We had the foul trouble, obviously. I'll throw to you, Joe. Like, where were you? I know Jalen's been a point of contention at times for all Celtics fans, really. But how'd you feel about JB tonight?
Yeah, just similar to Tatum, but more so. He needs to be aggressive. If he's not playing aggressively and not playing quickly, he's bad. Like there was a foul that Strus took on him, the offensive foul on a fast break. That's a mistake, but that's the kind of mistake I want him to make because I know the mentality he's playing with. And I think if he's playing with that mentality, which he was tonight, I think we as Celtics fans, we've got to live with the result because he will deliver more value than he takes away when he's playing like that. And I think the offensive rebounds he got were probably also indicative of his mentality.
Dad? Yeah, I know we're going to get to Joe later, but I'll give Joe a shout out here in that I think we all agree we don't love seeing Jalen initiate the offense, but to give it to him at the beginning of the game and get him into the game headwise, because he started 5 for 5 and he was locked in. That brings out the best in Jalen. Yep, he made some mistakes, missed some rotations, a couple of mistakes, but if you get he got us off to a good start, and overall he was good, right? He was second scorer and a lot of big plays in the fourth quarter when we needed him. He was there again. I'm a Jalen man. I think he suffers because he's always being compared to JT. He had a good game. He really did.
Yeah, look, if you
he had a better game than Jimmy Butler, right?
I was going to say, look, if you were to offer me Jalen Brown's game that he had tonight for Game 7, I don't know. Are you taking that?
You bet.
Yep.
You bet.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's right? Like this is what Jalen is. If you need efficient scoring, and look, Jalen's giving you efficient. He's giving you like best scorer in the league type scoring on good efficiency most nights. It's when he's not giving you that is when it feels worse, because when Tatum's not having that big night, and I've just done the thing that you've said everybody likes to do, Dad, in comparing him to JT, but it's like when Jalen's when he's not scoring, he's not doing as much as JT is. But tonight, like the 10 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds, 2 steals, and I think we should see that more from Jalen, right? Like we should see the big rebounding games that we see from Tatum. That JB, he's not quite as tall and not quite as long, but he has the athleticism to get into some of those nights. The foul trouble definitely gave him trouble, right? Like he was, and someone like Jimmy Butler, I feel like obviously Jimmy didn't have a good game, but you trust someone like Jimmy Butler or Tatum, I think, with foul trouble a little bit more. There was that one play in like the far corner to start the third quarter where Jalen like goes for a loose ball and it ends up being like heat ball, but it was like this close to a 4th foul. And it was like, we don't need you to just don't put yourself in those spots.
Yeah, but the thing is, he has to play with that mentality to be.
I know that's the thing.
So I'll take the fouls. I want to see the foul trouble as a positive sign because it means he's being physical, he's being aggressive, and that's going to be an optimal way for him to play, despite the negatives that have to come with it. Yeah,
look, I think, honestly, I feel like there's almost less to say about Jalen. I think what's great is that I don't want to say he's back, but he had a rough first 3 games in this series, and he's been, I would say, Game 4, Game 5, Game 6. I'm not sure if this game or last game you would say is the better Jalen Brown game, but because this is Game 5, right? Game 5. This is Game 6. Let's try and pull up the Jalen box
21 last game.
Yeah, I feel like this Jalen 9 for 18, 3 for 5. Maybe, I know maybe the 1 turnover last game. So this is 2 games in a row now. Jalen looks a lot more like himself. And when Jalen's looking like himself and Tatum's going like he is today, the Heat shouldn't have a chance. They shouldn't. The problem is that no one could hit a shot to save their lives today. Like literally, Can you guys guess how many people made a 3-pointer today? How many
I could probably
Celtics?
count them. I know Smart made one. I know I know Derrick White made one. Who the hell else made one? I don't remember Horford making one. I don't remember.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
That is it. The Celtics went 7 for 35 from 3, 20%. Marcus was 4 for 11, and Derek was 3 for 7 from 3. Like, crazy. So it's like if we can, we haven't had that one, we haven't had that one Jalen game, and like he was efficient because he was 9 for 16, but we haven't had that game where he's also going from 3 and on high volume. Like he was efficient in game 5, but we haven't had that high volume yet. So if we can get him going into game 7, like as we trend up here a little bit, I think that could be the moment. Look, I mean, if you guys want to throw anyone out here, please do, because I feel like we've done Derek, we've done a little bit of Marcus.
Spoke about Al, a little bit of Al. He didn't score much, but man, he always gotta love his D. Without him, I've heard you say he struggled against Bam, and Bam was pretty tough on the offensive boards, but in terms of not letting him score, he did a good job.
Yeah, he's both Rob and Al feel like they've settled into this matchup a lot better against Bam. And Al, this was, I thought, his best defensive game on Bam. Looked a lot more comfortable. Like you look at Bam's stats from tonight, and he is 4 for 16. Like that is a disaster, obviously, if you're a Heat fan. And Al was right there.
It's his game 3 showboat and coming back to haunt him. So I'm happy about that.
Joe, what were your thoughts on Al tonight?
I mean, there were 2 occasions I can think of where he just kind of fell asleep at critical junctures. One was where he, against the zone, he caught the ball in the post. It was kind of an awkward catch, and he controlled it, and then someone stole it from behind. I felt like there were a couple of moments tonight where he just needed to switch on a little bit more. But he rebounded to me, despite the amount of offensive rebounds we gave up. He still rebounded, at or above his usual standard. I think, okay, just a body position thing. It's like a posture thing with Horford. To me, he's a little too, okay, no, I do. This is extemporaneous, but.
Well, no, because I'm with you. I have a thought, so you go.
He's too upright. And when he's upright, he's not thinking score, right? He needs to get a little more in a stance. And I also noticed, and it may be by design because I'm not an X and O's expert, but it feels like he's stationed up on the high post, and he can get kind of stuck there. And that really gums up, like nothing gums up an offense more than somebody just standing at the top, right? Because you need that person to cut in order for somebody to fill to the spot that they just vacated in order to create a moving target for a pass. And there'll be some of my little critical comments about Al. But remember, we won, and we certainly weren't losing because of Al. We certainly weren't, it wouldn't have been his fault if we lost. Yeah.
All right. Either Dad, you jump into Al, and then we're going to do Grant next, but I really have to go to the bathroom. So you guys carry either Al and Grant for a couple of minutes, and I'll be back in a second.
I'll probably have to go by the time you're back. Sorry, Jackie.
Oh, you can hang on. I believe you.
Well, you could hang on.
Yeah, you would think so. But back to the zone, and we were talking about the mid-range game. You would think Horford. A little bit more of but Horford, because he at this point in his career, he's a 3-point shooter. I mean, every time he starts backing someone down, like he's going to miss a little jump hook, right? So I don't want to see that. But if either of the Jays get the ball at the high post, they could turn, either fake a mid-range drive, and then they're going to collapse on them, and then someone's going to be open. But they never seem to go to either of those guys when the zone's chunking them up.
That's the dumbest thing, and I think this is one of the problems with Tatum initiating the offense. If he's initiating the offense, it means he's got to go against the entire zone, right? Whereas if White's got the ball, Tatum be off the ball. We just need Tatum to catch it at the foul line, and that zone goes away. Yeah. It can't work because I think Tatum's a great shooter, and I think his 3-point shooting percentage is probably undersell, probably because of the types of 3-pointers he takes. But I think he's a fantastic catch and shoot shooter, particularly. And the trouble is he's handling the ball too much to me against the zone. Just let him catch in that
especially against the
mid-post.
zone. You're right. And they know it's there, and the Heat when it's at the most crucial juncture, they're going to break it out because that's about the one thing they got that really junks up the Celtics offense.
Yeah. And tempo-wise, we just crater when they go to zone, and that's probably also a function of, hey, we need to get the ball to Tatum. I don't think he's not, he's not quite binky.
We do, but as you said, not at the top of the play.
No. Yeah, we're just sorry, Jake, just to recap you.
That's right.
Me and your dad, we've agreed on what should happen to solve the zone.
Yeah, so let's get the Grant, get that out of the way.
Okay. And look, we got a lot of new listeners over the past couple of weeks here. Joe and myself interviewed Grant's dad at the beginning, like just before the season. Preseason, if you remember, and you go back, Grant was showcasing all these new skills.
Back when Ime was the coach?
Honestly, it was borderline. Honestly, it was borderline. And we were kind of talking about Grant. Is he going to be that borderline $20 million player? The roller coaster of Grant's season has been wild, in perfect alignment with the rest of the Celtics throughout the playoffs. He's been pretty good, though, when Grant has played in the playoffs. I honestly thought this was probably his worst game, though, of games that he played in the playoffs. And I think that's just he is a role player. And now that Brogdon's out, you're relying a lot on Grant today, and it just wasn't happening for him. Where were you on Grant today, Joe?
Man, he's got to make shots. I think, especially when we're struggling from three, we do rely on him. He missed an early corner three from memory, and just didn't seem like. Yeah. Maybe he needs to make an early one to feel confident, but that foul where he just bulldozed through Adebayo like he was trying to, get a fresh set of six.
Yeah.
He makes some dumb mistakes for such a smart guy. Him and Jalen aren't too far apart brain type wise. Smart guys that just can't help but do dumb stuff on the court.
What I think happened is, because he had such a rough go the second part of the season and the beginning of the playoffs, once he got to go, he was really playing within himself. It may be this game because he knew Malcolm was out. He's like, I got to do more.
Right.
And he forced a couple of shots, and they weren't good shots, and they obviously didn't go in. And then maybe he tightened up, and he kind of spiraled. And that's where I thought that was my biggest complaint with Joe today is he doesn't make those in-game personnel. This guy just doesn't have it today. And I thought he should have gone to Doogie earlier and given him a shot, especially because no one else was hitting.
You're the first person I've heard use that reference, but I love it.
Doogie. Me and Dad have been calling Hauser Doogie for a while now.
That's an OG thing. You got to be pretty old to remember Doogie Howser, the little redheaded.
I got the reference. Yeah. Sam, teach me how to Doogie Howser. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the tricky part is that they're at 6 guys plus Grant now, which is how many do the Heat have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have Jimmy, Caleb Martin, Bam, Strus, Vincent, and then it's Duncan Robinson, Lowry, Zeller.
Lowry worked well for us tonight, I have to tell you.
Lowry was definitely more bad than good throughout the series. Outside of game 1, where Lowry was 4 or 5 for 6 from the field in the first half, and he hit those ridiculous shots in the first half. Since that first half of the series, he's been pretty bad. So if you're the Heat, you're kind of on 6.5 guys as well. So I wonder, because he did throw Hauser out there for 1 minute and 50 seconds. And it's how do you, and I understand, right? Obviously, it's games, he's not going to be on a short leash, but can you just commit to giving Hauser as soon as Jimmy Butler goes to the bench for the first time, that's Hauser's stint. And it's if it works, maybe we can go back to it again in the second half, but you have to at least be we're going to try it for 4 minutes at home should be more comfortable than doing it on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, or if Grant comes out and is having a good game, stick with the 7. But it became obvious that something got in his head, and he just wasn't going to have it today. And just could have, especially because I think the threes weren't dropping. Just having that other shooter out there for a few minutes when we were really struggling might have helped.
Yeah, that would have. Yeah, maybe that's the move, right? It's just because it was obvious today. Grant didn't look quite the same. Didn't quite look as comfortable. Didn't look as within himself is the perfect way to describe it. But yeah, so if Grant looks like he's going off the rails, then maybe you give Dewey a crack there. Robert Williams III, pretty good. I mean, defensively, I feel like he's really settled in. And this is no more evident. You look at the Heat shot 46.7% from 3 and 35.5% from the field overall. That's because they could not make anything in the paint. And I think there was definitely some makeable shots by Jimmy and Bam, but Rob has them thinking. Rob is all over the paint. He's contesting everything. He's staying down. As soon as you stay down on Jimmy Butler pump fakes, that completely takes away like half of his offense, it feels like. And it took Rob 3.5 games to figure it out, but
he's
seems
got
to
the
have
memo now, man. There's a position
right?
I can distinctly remember where Butler threw like 3 pump fakes at him, and he just stayed down. So kudos, Bob. Well done. That's great, Bob.
Big dunk, Rob. We had that incredible finish where Tatum was on that run, right? And he throws the lob to Rob and Bam.
Shocking pass.
Oh, well, I think Bam got a finger on it. I mean, it was look, I think this Celtics team clearly terrible at throwing lobs because we have like one of the best lob threats in the NBA and inexplicably cannot find him. Cannot find like Bam, right? He's constantly getting those looks at the rim, but Tatum finds him, and only like how many guys can catch that lob after it's deflected and he has to change his course of a catch to throw that down. Yeah. So Rob, I feel like had a bit of an up and down playoffs, but the last few games and today he plays only 17 minutes again today. And I was like, when Grant was struggling, it was like you have two options. You either go to Hauser or you go to get double bigs. Like if you're going to go to another guy. And I was like, maybe you try double bigs because it gives you the rebounding and some defense. I don't know what you thought of Dad, what you thought of Rob, and if you want to see more of him, 17 minutes, or if they could have gone to him more today.
Yeah, well, because he was never going to play Hauser, they could have used a little bit more of him. He was great. That fourth quarter, I think he made one of those slightly fall away bank shots, which he almost never takes in the first half. And in the fourth quarter, when we needed it, it was like, yes, didn't go. But no, he had a good game. He's been playing well. He's not quite the game changer we were hoping for, but he's playing. I'm pretty happy with the way he's playing.
Yeah, I think coming into the playoffs, I was someone who was like, if we have a healthy Rob, that just takes us to a whole another level. And like the couple of weeks leading into the playoffs, Rob was like, there was signs of what Rob looked like through the playoffs last year when he was actually playing. But yeah, it's been not quite to that level this playoffs, but
this one's not as great a matchup. You think about it, even when they have Love out there, not that he moves around much, but he'll sit out there on the 3-point line, which is not what you want for Rob. And then if they don't have Love out there, it's Bam and all shooters. So it's not the greatest matchup.
I will say, I wouldn't want to jinx anything, but the best way to defend Denver is with someone like Rob. And
let's not go there.
Yeah, don't jinx it, man.
Don't do that.
Boy. All right. So I feel like we've hit most. I mean, there was not a lot of players to hit, and not a lot of players actually played. So Joe Mazzulla,
mate. Sorry,
the redemption.
Guys.
You got to run. You run, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Enjoyed it. Nice to meet you, Jake Stead. I believe the Celtics will blow.
Thanks, Joe. Likewise.
Blow them out. Yeah. That's the prediction.
Look.
Yeah, man.
All right, Joe.
It's not bold. It's just like that's the only way they'll win. Yeah.
All right, Big Joe. Yeah. Good to see you.
See you.
See you later. Yeah, look, I actually want to give some props to Joe. Everyone's been pretty hard on him. I definitely have had my moments with him, no question about it. But I thought today was one of his better games. Outside of I thought the whole Grant thing I already mentioned, but I think he called his timeouts well. I mentioned him getting Jalen going early. I thought he did a solid job.
He definitely. I mean, he's completely changed his timeout strategy from Game 4. It literally took until Game 4 where he saves. And John Zanis, the co-host of the Garden Report, he's who's the guy who stole the base in Game 4 of the
Dave Roberts. Yeah,
Dave Roberts. Yeah. That he was saying was the moment in this series, in that Jalen's like in the corner, they're on this run. Heat's kind of fight back, and he calls a timeout, and the Celtics score and then go on from there. The timeout thing has definitely been the most obvious. I thought that he's been really good, and then today, and obviously, like, it's a tough spot to be in because if you can't play Grant, what do you do? And I was like, Joe, you have to try. I thought he had to try something else, whether it was Hauser. I hesitate to say PP. I don't think this is especially when Jimmy's playing the 47. Like, there's no non-Jimmy minutes.
Yeah, and I think Hauser actually, I wouldn't say stand up to Butler, but he'd stay in front of him, and for a few minutes he'd be okay, whereas PP would have no shot.
That's the problem, is that if Jimmy's playing the whole game, you can't play Pritchard, and especially in this game where you're doing such a good job on Jimmy, you cannot give Jimmy an outlet where he might be able to get comfortable against Pritchard if he goes on the court. So I'm like, you have two options. Yeah. It's either Hauser or double bigs. Those are really your only two options. And I thought he should have tried one of them just because Grant was really, really struggling. So that I thought was the only thing that I didn't like from Joe. But he saved his challenge. The timeouts were he's hitting the timeout, which is like, the more obvious thing as a fan is that timeout usage. But I thought I feel comfortable with Joe. I mean, like, to rewind. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, talk about rewinding. If we go back to where we started the part in the last play, I don't imagine the original play was designed to go to Marcus first. So I don't know what it was that wasn't open. So I don't know what he drew up there. That would be my only other criticism. It worked, so I can't criticize it. But it was,
that was the play. That was the play. In and out three from Marcus. Derrick White follows a shot and goes in. From what I can tell is from like the post game stuff is that it was supposed to go to Tatum and then it was supposed to go to Jalen, but the Heat, Spo, I have no doubt was all over it, and Marcus was the outlet. And so sometimes, look, when there's only 3 seconds on the clock, if the opposing team shuts down what the play is, and you're kind of stuck. But if we rewind, where I asked you this before the game today, and it was, how much did your opinion change between the end of Game 3, specifically with Missoula, we'll start with, and to before Game 6? Like, where were you after Game 3 with whether or not you wanted to keep Missoula, and then did it depend on how Game 6 went? Like, where were you with Missoula and keeping him?
Yeah. Now, for me, after Game 3, I have to say, because I thought, man, he's going to have to go because I think he's lost the locker room, right? 34 years old. They let go of the rope. Al and Marcus are jumping into the coach's chair on the sideline. And I'm like, man, I hate to say it, but I think he's got to go. And then since then, he hasn't lost the locker room, obviously, because these guys are playing their backsides off and they've won 3 in a row. And I'm back to, well, if they keep him, and I saw something today where 3 of the assistants are probably going to go join Emmy in San Antonio.
What assistants? I don't understand that report.
I'm not too worried about who they are, but I'm just saying he's going to have to rebuild his bench, and he's got to bring in, not that I would want D'Antoni, but he's got to bring in someone who's been a head coach before to be, to whisper in his ear. And if he does that, then I'd give him another go. But again, the one thing we don't know, And Brad probably has a pretty good idea of what happens in the locker room and how they all relate and what the Jays think of them. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, right. Like and Tatum's probably been the most supportive vocally than anyone with how much he believes in Joe and how much of that is just Tatum. Because what are you going to say in the middle of the playoffs? Like, we support Joe, and honestly, like, it's not a hard thing to do from a leadership perspective. But how many players you look at Embiid and Harden when they get asked tough questions about Doc after tough losses? There's some shots that get fired, but like Tatum to be like, I fully support Joe. I think that the tricky part is like, you got to find the right coach where it's like, if the Celtics lose 4 games in a row or 2 in a row to the Magic, what is the coach where all of the media is not going to be like, fire Joe and move Frank Vogel, for example, to the front? So it's like this, you want more experience on the bench, but you also like don't want a situation where if things go badly for 2 weeks and if any time something bad happens, everybody's calling for Joe to get fired and to promote the guy from behind him.
And the other thing they often say, having someone who played the game, not a star, but played at a reasonable level, been through the wars. They tried it with Evan Turner, he didn't work out. One of those guys as well. Because really, they don't have the experienced guy, and they don't have a player on the bench once Studemeyer left either. So.
Yeah, well, so we've got Zachary in the chat again here. Eddie House or Scalabrini on the staff. Look, I would love Eddie House on the staff. The problem is, I think his current job with NBC Sports, and I know for sure Scal's job is going to probably pay him more than an assistant job, and it's way easier. There's so much less, so much less work involved with being a broadcaster than there is with being an assistant on like an NBA team. So it's like, well, can you get someone to work part-time? Honestly, it's like a culture-y guy that's a player, because these guys that have made real money, like Evan Turner did it for a year, but he was like, it's so much work. He even said it's so much work. And I got paid $74 million. So it's like, I'm just going to do this podcast. Like what, I can reach out and come around. So I don't know. I don't know if you can throw the bag at KG and get him to work 1 day a week for the Celtics, but I imagine he's making plenty of money where that's not a problem. Yeah, Vogel and Silas, those seem to be the 2 guys that are rumored. My only concern with Vogel in particular is that, like, looking over your shoulder thing. Silas, I don't think anyone's going to be like too like, oh, because what Silas done as a head coach, all he did was just get fired in Houston. So you don't hate, you don't have to worry about that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was a top assistant before that. I just saw today the Bucks hired some. Yeah, they didn't go for an experienced coach. They hired so who has a lot more experience than Joe when he took the job. But someone with at least the experience of Silas, doesn't have to be as much as Vogel. But Vogel said, "I'm doing this for 1 year," and that would take some of the pressure off. You still hear that background crap that you mentioned, but you wouldn't want him around for more than a year, because then that would always be there.
Yeah, we're going to hear the background crap regardless. Okay, well, before we wrap up and get out of here, we're going into game 7. Confidence level?
All right, my prediction, right, going back to FanDuel, I'm going to say Celtics in 7. Why 7? Because
by
I don't
7?
want to win by 7, right? And because you said the Lions -8, right?
Yep.
In that, I want to go in to the last 7 or 8 minutes up 17, knowing we're going to blow 10 points. And so 17 minus 10, I know you don't like your math, 7-point win. That's where I'm at. I think we'll come out well. I think we have to shoot the 3 better. But the Heat, one thing about Jimmy, he ain't going to quit, and they're going to give it one last charge. So I'm hoping we're up enough that we can blow that 10-point lead and still win by 7. So we'll still get a bit tight, but don't get sick like I did today.
Yeah, if we've learned anything, we need to be up by more than 10 with 5 minutes to go. That seems to be like the absolute dead zone. Like if we're up 10 with 5 minutes to go, that is just not enough. So it needs to be more than that. Great call from Z Gamer. Elimination Celtics versus at home Celtics. Battle of a lifetime. We will say the last time the Celtics played at home, it was domination. So we can hope going into that one, we feel good. Look, the Celtics are 5-0 in elimination games in the playoffs. So we got one more. get in the ice tub today.
Yeah.
I have a
Game 7. A revisit from Game 7, Grant would be handy.
A revisit from Grant would be very handy. So, if the series ended today, who wins the Larry Bird Trophy? If it's a Celtic, is it Tatum? Has Derrick White snuck his way in there a little bit, or no?
No,
it's pretty clearly Tatum, right?
Yeah. He has been, honestly, he's been so good. All that, there was that stuff earlier in the Sixers series that he blew away the end of the Game 6, and then obviously 7. He's ever since then, he's just been unbelievable. He's had, as you said, he had a great series. Any help at the beginning, we'd have wrapped this up. Nah, it has to be him.
Can a Heat player win the award? Is it Jimmy? Because even if the Heat
Caleb
win, that's what I'm saying. Like if the Heat actually win the series, it's clearly Caleb Martin.
Except if Jimmy wins Game 7, it'll be Jimmy.
If Jimmy has a big Game 7 and that's the reason they win, then Jimmy gets it. But if, for example, you replicate what happened today, Caleb Martin wins it.
Yeah, I think he does. If it was a replay, so to speak, and they won, and he had that sort of game, he deserves it. Right? No question. Not Bam. And Jimmy was good early, but he's no.
All right. Well, if we've learned anything about the Celtics, is that they're not going to quit. It might take them just honestly way too long to really flip the switch. Whether it's Game 6 in Philly, down 2 with 4 minutes to go before Tatum wakes up, or it's down 3-0. Down 3-0. We are now the 4th team in NBA history to force a Game 7.
And the only one I saw today that has the home court advantage in it for Game 7. So, let's hope history, 2004 Sox, here we come.
Only this Celtics team could do this to us. And look, we're going to be here after Game 7, win, lose, but I'm with you. I think I said before Game 6, if the Celtics win Game 7, Heat are in trouble. And we're going home, all the momentum. I'm hoping Jimmy Butler finally cops some crap. Like if Jason Tatum had these 3 games in a row, we'd be hearing all of it. Absolutely all of it. And not to mention the fact that Jimmy Butler's called that they're going to win both games, Games 5 and Game 6. We'll see. Well, we appreciate everybody hanging out with me and Dad. He's the reason I am a Celtics diehard. He didn't pass down any of his mathematics skills, so you can. I don't know what happened in that gene jump, but that's why I can't provide you guys with the hard hitting stats. Dad, thank you for filling in for Ben today. We'll be back for Game 7. Everybody, thanks so much. Follow us on YouTube at First to the Floor. Subscribe to the podcast feed. We're going to be doing shows not on the CLNS feed as well. So if you want to catch us outside of this feed, make sure you follow us on the First to the Floor YouTube and Apple Podcast, Spotify. Let's go Celtics.
Let's go.